dangerous time.
What do you think Shakespeare's motives may have been for twisting the whole reality around? I mean, was it just for entertainment purposes? Was he trying to project some political agenda in all this?
It could have been a lot of those things. I mean, like, for instance, that wasn't the only person he defaced. So, I really, there's some theory going around that he was the secret Catholic, and that he would, maybe he was trying to protect his own interests, in the church, with the Church of England, and defaming Richard.
Of course, a lot of people think because Elizabeth was on the throne when he wrote it, if he was writing the history plays, he had to make the history turn out so it was favorable to Elizabeth, who was the granddaughter of Henry Tudor, who killed Richard on the battlefield. So
there was another thing too, and I can't remember the person, but he was also connected. There was some archbishop, maybe it was the Archbishop of Canterbury or something. It was in that article, in the BBC Magazine article, that he got a lot of information. And he wrote the play maybe to her even more than Elizabeth. I mean, he didn't have to write about him at all.
Right. And there's also the idea of marriage and having children that take over the thing too, right?
Right.
Because Elizabeth didn't have.
She was Virgin Queen. She didn't have issue, and they were always afraid of a minor. And part of the theme of and in fact it's brought out in the play, part of the theme of Richard III is that Edward was a minor, and they were afraid of it, because from Richard II, when he, as a minor when he took the throne, and the weak King Henry VI, when he took the throne, he was a baby. And had it, and he was led by different factions, and, it was all politically driven.
Yeah, and that's actually a pretty decent point.
Yeah.
When you read the pro-Richard side of things, you see how maybe people would have gone along and not wanted another child king. I tweeze out the Henry VI a lot in this production, because I think that is such a through line. People were so tired of children kings, and everybody then fighting over who would rule them, that it made some sense.
Well, that and
yeah.
Well, that and their enemies over, like when the French, they were always fighting. They didn't want to be weak against the French, as an example. So I mean that was important that they had somebody who was able to take power right away.
So it's pretty. The treatments of this. Could you maybe recommend some of the other historical novels that there's some I think that do a better job than others of truthful research.
Well, Daughter of Time that you read, it's more of like a detective story to see, could he have possibly killed the princes? And that was by Josephine Kay. Sharon K. Penman's Sun and Splendor, that's what got me started. I think it's excellent. Another one that I think is excellent is a book by Rhoda Edwards, The Broken Sword. And that is during the reign of Richard III. And it's not in print now, but you can get it used. It's readily available used. And she also wrote the itinerary of Richard III for the Richard III Society. So she would know, she had a lot of historical background, academically. Those are the three that really pops in my mind immediately, that I would start with.
Any other questions?
Are there historians in the UK that equal your interest in exploring this?
Yes, in fact, the Richard III Society in the UK is rather strong compared to Richard III Society in the US. We're much smaller. But of course, it's their king, their former king.
So what do you disagree with them about?
The Richard III Society?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, some of them do think the princes were murdered, and obviously I don't. But some people in the U.S. think the princes were, in the Richard III Society, so we all have different opinions. And
do they have an agenda?
Yeah, actually, you can go to some websites I would recommend. I'd recommend the U.S. Richard III Society website, r3.org. And they have a link to the parents of society, so slightly longer address. I think it's richardii.net. And there are historians in the U.S. and the U.K. who take the opposite, take the Shakespearean point of view more, not really Shakespeare's point of view, but that Richard did kill the princes, and that's how he got power and so forth.
Does anyone think that any surviving Plantagenets have a claim to the throne?
He just died.
Yes.
It just happened.
In Australia, I think. Yeah.
The last surviving member of the Plantagenet family. And
he was in Australia?
Yeah. He was like a bricklayer.
What if I were to tell you I'm one of the
You should tell everybody.
Maybe when I do that crazy avant-garde production where the real Richard is lurking now.
Careful what you say.
I'll say it.
Can he come on tour?
Careful what you say.
Get your tour.
We'll have to give you a deformity.
I don't know if it was tucked into your brochures, but there's there might be a bookmark for that. There's a New England branch of the New England chapter of the Richard III Society, but it also has the web addresses, and you can check it out. And, if you're interested. Are we looking for members? I also happen to be the editor for the U.S. publication of the Richard III Society.
You said quarterly?
Yes.
How did you get interested in the Richard III?
Well, just from Sharon K. It started with Sharon K. Penman's Sun and Splendor, and then I said, "Whoa, this is not the Richard I know," and I just kept going.
There's something about the mystery of it. I don't know what it is. Once you get hooked, it's almost impossible to stop delving in.